Welcome back. This is the special edition of Journalist Hangout to mark the Independence Day special of Journalist Hangout, and we have our guest joining us 60 years after independence. It is still a long walk to economic prosperity for Nigeria. The dream of becoming one of the most prosperous countries on the planet is still a tall one for Africa's largest economy. How can the country surmount its challenges and give its citizens shared prosperity? Babajide, Mayor Akipelu, Adekunle Yusuf, and Ohi Alegbe join me for this discussion. Thank you, gentlemen. Let me start with Mayor. It's now at independence, Nigeria was a very prosperous nation. Then suddenly, we began relying too much on petrodollar. How did we get here?
Yeah, I think the military destroyed our economy because prior to the military, we were very good in agriculture. Agriculture was very strong. And we were, as we moved towards, as we discovered and started earning a lot of money from oil, we were able to put a lot of infrastructures in place. If you remember that manufacturing was doing well in the country then. We had vehicles that we assembled. We have factories. We have our textile industry was booming, and Nigeria was an emerging economic tiger. You know, then everybody believed that Nigeria, along with other countries that emerged at that time, Singapore, Malaysia, and all that, we have a lot of prospect because we have everything going for us. We have education, we have population. Apart from population, we have good land, so which will help us to be good in agriculture. And we have the market. But unfortunately, during the time of the military, we embarked on this pen trip that we destroyed the basis of our economy. We lost agriculture. People were not interested in staying apart from cities. There was a lot of corruption. There was wastage. And we became an import-dependent economy, which is not good for any country. Because that is one of the problems that we have with our currency. Because if you don't produce anything and you import everything that you need, you have to look for money to pay for those things. And you can't pay for those things in your own currency. You have to look for an internationally accepted currency to do that, that is the problem with our economy. Our economy is import-dependent because when we suddenly found ourselves with oil money, we had people who believed that, our problem is not money, but how to spend it. And they did not develop the economy. You have to produce what to eat. You have to manufacture things that you need. But if you don't do that, and you depend on other people who are developing their own economies to make you have good life, it will affect you. The only thing going for us is just the population. That is why we have the economy that we have.
Do people talk nostalgically about the time when our currency was so strong and the economy was really booming? Do you agree that the structural adjustment program is responsible for our present woes?
It laid the foundation for it, and because we were compelled to devalue our currency. Before the Ibrahim Babangida dictatorship came on stream, the currency was very strong. In fact, before Buhari took over, I remember that our currency was even stronger than the dollar at that time. And there are so many advantages to that because even foreign investors will be attracted to your country when they know that your currency is strong. They will be attracted to your country. And there was prosperity, there were industries here and there, the textile mills, the assembly plants, all kinds of industries. But progressively, things began to get worse. From the first devaluation of our currency that we had, by the time Abuja got to office, got to power, we had the dual exchange rate module. The dual exchange rate module had been created, which was actually used to make some people rich. Because at that time, the official rate was 22 naira to the dollar, whereas the unofficial rate, which is actually the closest to reality, that's the rate at the parallel market, was around 40, 44. So you then created a situation in which rent seekers became rich at the expense of the state. They just go to CBN, take some dollars and go and change it, and they became rich. From 40, 44 naira to a dollar at that time, you can see where we are now. And see where we are now. The CBN is telling Bureau de Change operators that they must sell at 386 to a dollar. But you can't decree it, you can't force it. If the currency is not readily available, of course, a lot of speculating will go on, and then the free fall of the naira will result from that. So SAP, it was after SAP that we then began to see the collapse of the economy. Industries began to leave our country, relocate elsewhere, and things began to get really bad, and successive governments found it, I would say, impossible to bring us back to the era that we were really proud of.
All right, we are going off our sister station, TVC Entertainment, but the program continues on TVC News, that's DSTV 418, GoTV 45, and some other platforms. Adekunle Yusuf, some blame corruption and mismanagement for our woes. To what extent would you blame corruption?
Yes, apart from many other issues, someone.
We're having connection problem with Adekunle Yusuf. Let's go to our Abuja studio where we join Mr. Ohi Alegbe. Thank you for joining us. I want you to cast your mind back to the time when we had assembly plants, textile mills doing well. How did these firms take a flight from Nigeria, and how can we bring them back?
Thank you for having me here. It's an interesting story, the Nigerian story, in terms of the economy and where we have come this far. Fine, yes, there were industries. We had factories running. We had people gainfully employed and all of that. But my concern is that I am not too sure whether we had any sustainable plan, in the sense that we are still tied to the apron strings of the colonialists. So more or less we are running a neo-colonial economy, which tended to make us always look out there instead of looking inwards. We made half-hearted attempts at looking inwards, backward integration. But we didn't sustain that. We didn't keep the programs running as effectively as we should have. Now, because we had jettisoned the plans we had at independence when we had evolved economic development programs. Now, when the military came on board, what that meant was that we jettisoned most of these plans. And so we adopted a rather haphazard approach to the economy. So to the extent that, well, SAP came at a point, and some of those other ad hocist programs, which didn't particularly address how we can sustain our production, which also meant that we, at a point, jumped into privatization when we didn't even have the capacity in terms of human capital, in terms of technical capital to support that process. Now, where we are today, where we have, for instance, refineries, and we are not producing, we are exporting crude, the way we were exporting cocoa, the way we were exporting cotton, the way, today we talk of granite pyramids in Kano and some parts of the north. We were exporting raw materials to sustain industries outside of Nigeria. Instead of following a process, a value chain of taking it from the raw level up until you had finished production here to the consumables. The kind of thing that, for instance, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina?
Yes.
The former Minister of Agriculture, the African Development Bank President, had tried to push with agriculture. Take it from cocoa and make sure that we do not just export raw cocoa.
Chocolate.
We do not just export raw petroleum, or crude petroleum as it were, but that we use it here. But of course, there are forces against such coming together by Nigerians or Nigerian entrepreneurs at the level of government to give us that political will to sustain such development initiatives. We didn't do all of that. We didn't do any of that. And so we are where we are today because, one, the political will to assert ourselves as Africans and as African nations has not been there. We have been half-hearted about backward integration. We have not pursued our goals consistently, following the plans that were put in place in the First Republic, for instance, when we had development plans, when the regions were more or less self-sufficient. It is possible we can say, yes, we produced agricultural products. Oil was just creeping into the system, on the strength of which we now had our refineries. But today the refineries are comatose. They're not working. And so we export crude and all that. So we have a big challenge. First, to redefine our approach to our economic emancipation, because we're definitely suffering from some form of neo-colonialism. We're not sufficiently looking inwards to assert ourselves as Africans and say, let's do it here by ourselves. It's not as if we do not have the manpower. It's not as if we do not have the human capital. After all, Nigerians are out there doing so very well, and we applaud them. In the president's speech this morning, he also applauded quite a number of Nigerians are doing excellently well out there. In here, we still have Nigerians who are capable of taking our economy from the doldrums to that level where we can produce, engage people, and employ people. So first, the political will, the courage to say no to neocolonialism and look inwards and say, let's do it here by ourselves. If we must look further afield, we can look towards other African countries and say, come, let's pull our resources together and run this show ourselves. And then we can now take it from there. But as long as we do not put that plan in place that addresses all these issues from that political perspective, we'll continue to go around in circles.
I want to ask you, Mr. Alegbe, what can we do to make our currency stronger?
Our what?
What can we do to make our currency stronger? Currency. The Naira.
The strong, it's production. Production, basically. If we are producing, then we do not now have to export raw materials. Because what now happens is that, take oil, all right? We're unable to produce in our refineries petroleum products, and so we take the crude and export. and the price is determined in the international market. It's fixed. And because it's fixed, you just have to take it at whatever level you are given to take. You can't insist on a pricing template that favors you and your economy. That's one. Two, take cocoa. In the international market, the price is also determined and fixed out there. So we cannot, for instance, export cocoa and say, well, this is how much we want to sell it for. Whereas if we have industries working and we take cocoa from the farm in Ondo or Edo State and Cross River where we have this thing, you now produce it and make chocolate and make whatever products from it. You'll find that the value will be added to your cocoa. And then when you go into the international market, you can now bring your chest out and say, well, this is how much I want to sell it for. But as long as the prices are fixed by others, our naira will remain weak. So we'll keep going to, here in Abuja, someplace they call Shangalinko, not too far from Sheraton, where they exchange naira for dollars. And then you keep having this parallel market, and because our money, our currency is tied to the dollar. Even when we started the other day trying to get some Chinese involvement in it, it has not quite worked. It's neither here nor there. So the point is production, and production, and production. Let us stop the process of taking our raw materials out there and try and create the industries locally. It might take a while, but we just have to look inwards and insist that, well, for a period of time, we must put our resources together and make sure that it's done here. Oil, for instance, Dangote is doing something. I'm sure that when he finishes his refinery, he will be much more concerned about export than servicing the local market. So you cannot dictate the pace. You cannot determine the value of your currency if you are not producing. You just got to produce. You've got to produce. So, for instance, let's take the entertainment industry. If our Nollywood does well and continues at this pace, we'll find that we'll be able to, for instance, hold our own against other
Okay, Mayor, coming back to the studio, still talking on this naira now. Why have all the steps taken by the Central Bank of Nigeria to strengthen the naira not worked?
Because they're not sincere. It's just simple like that.
CBN?
Yes. Because they're not sincere. You see, it is a more common knowledge that there are people who use the laxity in the control from CBN to make money. Because for you to strengthen, you cannot have dual exchange rate, and you will think it will enhance your currency. No, it will not. Because immediately that lacuna is there, people will buy and round trip. You just know that recently, Central Bank, with the people in betting and all that, and they were accusing them for people not declaring the foreign exchange that they make outside the country. You understand? You cannot allow people to take advantage of the laxity in control when it comes to your currency. So this idea of having a government, an exchange rate that you do government business, another exchange rate for the people cannot work. You must have one exchange rate. That is one. Two, you must tell yourself that everybody knows that, I explained that, and he also said that the problem that we had was that when our currency was strong was when we were producing things. So the number of money that we need to import things reduced. You understand? Because if it is tire that you want, you know that you have Dunlop, you have Michelin, you have people who are doing those tires in your country. Mm. So from the rubber plantation to the tire, you can control the entire chain yourself. Now you don't have that. So if you want to buy ordinary tire, you have to import from all manners of places. So we have to tell ourselves that we have to go back to the basics. We have to create an enabling environment for manufacturing. And how we can do that is to tell most of these businessmen that come and just play on the stock exchange or export things to us, all manners of cheap goods. We will tell them we cannot do that. Don't forget that one of the policies that strengthened our economy was the indigenization decree during the time of Gowon. The indigenization was able to bring, because we were saying, no, you cannot just come into our country, you have to involve Nigerians in doing that. And a lot of people get involved because now foreign companies have to look for Nigerian collaborators to assist them in doing their business, which trickle down to so many other things. And that's the same thing that Dubai is doing. You cannot do anything in Dubai without having, there's an international policy there where you have to get an indigene who has to be part of that business. So we have to encourage people.
Apply to be their
yes,
citizen.
we have to encourage people. All the companies in China and all the Lebanese that are doing things, that are importing all manners of things to Nigeria, we must find a way of making them produce those things here.
Okay, let me go back to Adekunle Yusuf. Some blame corruption and mismanagement for our woes. To what extent would you blame corruption?
Yes, I will blame corruption because when you look at many of the problems we have had, you will see the hand of corruption in everything. If you talk about poverty, you know that corruption, contributes to poverty. If you talk about insecurity, you will see the hand of corruption, because when any society where you see massive, unemployment, you see massive poverty, you see all the kind of things that we have now. You see violence, you see banditry, kidnapping, and all that. So corruption, every government, this one and the previous ones, they've always tried their best to fight corruption. But you realize that it has become something that is most difficult for every administration, to stamp out. You know what happened in NDDC, Niger Data Development Commission recently, so many other ones. You look at previous government during Jonathan, the ones under Obasanjo, and many of them, you will see that what's actually the best way to fight corruption. But to me, we have not been doing it the right way, because what we do is we go after people who have stolen money instead of strengthening our system to make it extremely difficult, if possible, to make it impossible for people to steal money. But we wait till they steal our money, then we now start running after them. So all this, over the years, you realize that a large percentage of our national revenue, does not go for service to the people. It actually goes to the pockets of highly placed individuals. Not only those in government, including some of our elites, who are contractors, who are friends of people in power and all that. So because people believe that it's only people who go to government that are corrupt. You also have what they call bureaucratic corruption. That is, you bend all the rules to favor certain individuals here and there to make money at the expense, of government or the nation. So all these kind of things, until we are able to find a way to solve them, we have EFCC, we have ICPC, we have all the kind of laws that many countries don't even have. But in Nigeria, do they really work? All of us know the answer. Until we are able to do, away with this model of corruption, fighting corruption, tighten our system, get the banking system, because there is no economic activity, whether legitimate or illegitimate, you can carry out without involving the banks. So until we are able to factor a way to bring the banking system in tandem with modern realities, to make it almost impossible for anybody to steal money. But in Nigeria, you still see billions dumped somewhere, and the federal government or the state government is looking for. They don't know the owner. The FCC is looking here and there. These kind of things, they happen because we run an analog system. I don't know of any country that somebody will be able to dump billions, and they are saying they saw billions in the airport. They didn't know who gets it. these are some of the ways into servicing, public good. So until we fight corruption the proper way, that is making it impossible for people to steal money instead of going after, those who have stolen our money, I don't think we are fighting corruption. And until we're able to fight corruption,
Okay, okay. Let me just pause. Adekunle there.
Nigeria depends on what?
Babajide, now coming back now, shifting our focus now. This administration has focused on key infrastructure, that's roads and rail especially. What else can we do to revamp our economy?
Yeah, I think we should put greater accent on production. It shouldn't be just one facet of the economy that we're looking at. We should concentrate on production. The way it is now, people, we are focusing too much on petrol dollar, because we think that we really don't have to bother ourselves. But a nation that merely consumes and does not produce cannot really achieve economic progress. It's just not going to happen. So, yes, infrastructure can make a big difference. The movement of goods and services will improve when you improve the condition of our roads. Farmers will be able to bring the produce from their farms to the end consumers, to where they are needed. So definitely that will improve the GDP of our country. But basically, we need to produce a lot more. I was talking about Kenya as a country making so much of its foreign exchange from tea. They export tea to all of these big countries of the world. They are contesting seriously with Indonesia and the rest of them in tea production. And in Mambila, we can produce tea, but we are not even maximizing the potential. We can produce tea there and export.
Have we touched it at all?
There's just is produced, and the quality of the tea from Mambila is just top notch. But we have potential that we need to develop that we are not really doing so much about. Now you see we are not earning enough foreign exchange because COVID-19 has affected even remittances. How do the BDCs get their dollars? Largely from the CBN and from foreign remittances. And those foreign remittances have gone down significantly. And when you also look at the oil prices have gone down. So we are not going to earn so much. And when we do not earn so much, we will not be able to meet our obligations. Obligations to foreign partners and our balance of trade will just not be good enough. We will be in deficit. You can see even the budget that the 2021 budget, everyone is talking about it. So much money set aside for paying debt. It is because we are not earning enough. Even the revenue that we are generating within our country, we have not been able to fix the issue of collection. A lot of the revenue generating agencies, they are refusing to remit enough. So how can we come out of this mess? We won't have enough money to take care of infrastructure and to solve other problems if things continue in this manner. We have to improve in the area of revenue generation so that we just don't become a nation that only goes to borrow and borrow and borrow from other countries.
Mayor, poverty is another thing. We are said to be the world poverty capital, which is not an appellation that is encouraging. Now, it is said that over 100 million Nigerians live below the poverty line. And what are those steps? And this administration, President Buhari has told us that he intends to take this same 100 million people out of poverty.
Yeah, it is good to say that, but the reality is that they are not working towards that goal. Why do we have that amount of the number of people living below poverty line? It's because of our population. We have to acknowledge that we have a lot of Nigerians, close to about 200 million people. Majority of our people live in the rural areas. You understand? Where they are abandoned and not taken care of by government. They don't have access to
presence, no
yes,
government presence.
no government presence. They still practice farming at the subsistence level. They are not, the government is not coming in to encourage them, let them have cooperatives, and then put infrastructures in place, put storage facilities.
They barely do mechanized farming.
They don't. Yes, they don't have access to health facilities because the few amount of money remaining, we spend it in cities, and there's still a lot of wastage. Government is more concerned about the lifestyle of our leaders. So government is not making enough efforts to solve that problem, because you have to look at the cost of governance in the country. Have they made sacrifices to say, oh, in the kind of country we have now, our leaders should not earn the kind of money they earn, that the presidential fleet should not have the kind of amount of planes that they have, the number of planes they have in the fleet. You know, we still, you see, the tragedy of Nigeria is that we're a struggling nation. We are not a poor nation, yes. We are a struggling nation, but we live as if we are a rich country.
Very wasteful.
Yes, we are very wasteful in the way we do things. So we are not telling ourselves the truth. The reality is that we don't have this money, but we still think we are in the 60s and 70s when it was the boom era, and we are living large. You know, we are just living. But the only thing that is assisting us is that to borrow is not a problem. Borrow is not. It depends on what you are borrowing. Yes, it depends on the kind of what you are borrowing the money to do. You understand? If you borrow money to do infrastructure, it's cool because it will stimulate the economy. It will open up a lot of places and it will add value to the economy. And especially when you borrow from China and it's a long time borrowing with low interest rate, it is okay. So I don't have any problem with that.
So people will still debate it
At least,
with you.
No, it's good. Because, you see, you have to borrow. It's just like, as an individual. If you borrow money, for example, to buy a personal car, or you borrow money to marry a second wife, or to buy a designer wristwatch, when it is time to pay, and you don't have the money to pay, you'll be in serious trouble. But if you borrow money from the bank to start a big farm, or you borrow money from the bank to buy a car, and you use the car for Uber, and you are in a position to pay back. You understand? You are adding value. So it's not as if you should not borrow. It depends on what you are using the money to do. You understand? So if it is infrastructure, it is good because it will open up the country, it will stimulate the economy, it will increase spending and all that. But the problem is that the government is not behaving. They are not facing the reality of the moment. The reality of the moment is that the time that we are a buoyant country is gone.
Okay, let me take you back to Abuja, where Mr. Alegbe is still waiting. And I want to ask you, how do we get out of poverty, or how do we address this alarming poverty rates?
Well, it takes us back to the point we tried to make earlier, which is that we need to engage in production processes. But it's easier said than done. You know, Babajide was talking about it a while ago when you asked the question of infrastructure development. The enabling environment has to be created by government. Infrastructure, I think the greatest thing that the industries will require for production processes is power. Power, as in NEPA or DISCO or Genco or whatever name they go by now. If we're able to get that right, for instance, there are a lot of Nigerians at the SME level
small scale.
who can engage themselves. And if you aggregate all of such small industries, people coming together on their own, we mention hairdressers, those doing pure water and whatever. If you aggregate all of that, or each of these, and you bring them all together, you find that you begin to take people out of the poverty level. Nigerians are not lazy people. We are very resourceful. We are very hardworking. We are also quite disciplined. But I think that from the point of view of government, infrastructure in terms of spreading it around, the major thing that they have to do in that regard is to create, to generate power. To generate power. It's not just a question of fixing tariffs and all that. Nigerians will pay if the power is there, I'm sure. The way we do our phones and so on and so forth. We are a particularly talkative lot. We spend hours on end on the telephone. We do not complain how much we buy airtime for, etc., etc. But let government provide power, electricity, and you'll find that will jumpstart the economy, geometrically. Nigerians will now take it upon themselves to do what they have to do to get themselves, to pull themselves out of poverty. It's not a question of handouts. That is not sustainable. It's not a question of trader money or farmer money or school feeding money. I'm saying it advisedly now, but that if you provide the environment, if there is power, I wouldn't need to wait for you before I engage myself. I do my fish farm or go to my farm and produce whatever I have to produce. Or, after producing, I say, well, after producing cocoa, I can translate it into chocolate. I have power. If you know what the cost of sales is today in Nigerian businesses, how much they devote to generators, to diesel purchases on a daily basis. If you're able to net that off,
I'm afraid we have to leave it there.
Even further encourage other investors from coming, encourage them to come into Nigeria and also buy into our economic agenda. But right now, we're not doing much of that. So it's easy. We can take ourselves out of poverty. But let government do that power thing.
I want to thank you especially
and reasonably.
Mr. Ohi, thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution to the program. Judy, you have to thank his intervention that he had to come. Thank you. And I want to thank Mayor Akekwedu. Thank you. After a long time, Mayor. I've been so good to see you. So wait after the program, we'll cut our cake and we celebrate the Jan 60. Yes, and Mayor was 62. Yes. Mayor was 60 some months back.
He chose to do it during the
COVID period. But we are still going to have a big one anytime before December. Thank you so much. And for our final segment, we'll discuss insecurity. So I take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. That will be the final segment of this special edition of Journalist Hangout. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this time. Welcome back. It's our final lap on the Independence Day special of Journalist Hangout, and we're talking security. Insecurity remains one of the greatest challenges facing Nigeria, from the reign of Boko Haram terror in the northeast to armed banditry ravaging the northwest. Insecurity is high in the country. And Martin Oloja is joining us after a long time.
Yes.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Moji Jami will be joining us also via Skype. And also we are expecting veteran broadcaster and journalist Nasir Zaradin. Okay, so also in Abuja there. Now, let me start with Martins here. Now, how did we get here in terms of insecurity? Nigeria used to be a very, very secure country. We were even helping out peacekeeping, in other countries, and we didn't have much to do, talking about internal peace. But right now, we've deployed our military, we've deployed police, and we have military presence in almost all 36 states right now, and the police are overstretched. So, how did we get here?
It's a long journey, but there is this link between the question you are asking and so many answers that have been given. Because within the same context, you find what has been discussed: poverty. We didn't get here just anyhow. Our people were not like this. Small as I am, young I still am. I was brought up in a village where you will see sugarcane, you will see some crops, even fruits, by the roadside, and they will put these coins and currency to determine the price of goods somewhere in Ondo State.
Yes.
As we be going to the stream in the morning, or you're going to farm, you will see the price. You drop it there, and nobody will take anything without paying for it. Small as I am, I witnessed it.
Dare not do that now.
Yes. So gradually, we things began to change, and then we began to celebrate. Even, you know, at that time, let me add this: at that time, it would be impossible for anybody who harbored, any family that harbored thieves, even pickpockets, to find even husbands for their daughters. Because integrity will be investigated. If anybody was interested in anybody's daughter, that person will be investigated. If somebody grew up in a particular family in this same country, there was order, integrity was anybody's watchword, and people will have to wear it. It will not be heard of that, oh, so this thing happened in this place, this thing happened.
How did you now have this decline in terms of security?
At the time, you heard about Oyenusi and all those things, they introduced it gradually, the tribunal, and then they were executing people publicly, but it did not stop this. But when we began to devalue a lot of things, we were not placing value on those things again. And if you stayed in Abuja or some cities for some time, and you will come home and you start speaking grammar, and you will not bring in big cars and all those things, you will not build a mansion and all those things like that, then they began to say that you had wasted your time. You're not the right guy. And they began to give chieftaincy titles. Even those traditional rulers began to give titles to people who had no integrity, who were morally debased, people who had no character, and they began to honor them. And then public service at that time, there was order, there was general order, and when people traveled, at that time, even in public service, no public officers were not allowed to take their official cars home.
Let me pause you there, Martin. Julie, at what point in time, looking at the military now, it used to be very, very strong, and we were up to the task, and we're going out for peacekeeping and everything. And we now have internal insurgency right now to cope, to deal with, and so far it has not been good.
Yes, the kind of insurgency that we are grappling with now, we had never had to grapple with it. In the past, we had Maitasini. I'm sure Nancy Zaradin will talk about it because he covered the Maitasini riots of Daira. But we never had anything so close to Boko Haram's brand of terror. So our soldiers are just getting used to asymmetric warfare. You can't compare our soldiers to the Chadians, for example, who had to fight a civil war for 40 years. Our soldiers are fantastic at the kind of warfare that they are familiar with, you know, which is conventional in nature. You know, now asymmetric warfare is different.
Okay,
it's different.
Let me take you to Abuja, where Nasir Zaradin. Now, Nasir, from what you've seen, why are we looking helpless? It looks as if this government does not have what it takes to actually stop the uprising of Boko Haram all around the Northeast.
Well, I think let us go to history. From 1960 to the late 1990s, nothing happened in Africa in terms of security without substantial Nigerian contribution. Was it Liberia, Congo, Sierra Leone, Somalia? You know, Nigeria paid her dues with replenishing vigor and vitality. What has gone wrong now? That is what we should try and address. We still have the same armed forces, and those armed forces were doing very well. I remember even Nigeria police got laurels in Namibia and other peacekeeping efforts they went in the world. During the Meitesine crisis, for instance, in Kano, the police were used initially, but the Meitesine people were overpowering the police, so they had to be withdrawn. And within no time, that army, which was led by General Wawa Kure and then Major Akilu, Halilu Akilu, finished that job within 24 hours. And they were able to bring down that riot. Unfortunately, what happened after that was most of the remnants of the Meitesine were allowed to move to other parts of the country. Some settled in Kaduna, Maiduguri, where they did Alak Ato. They went to Gombe and other places. It is also on good authority that Mohammed Yusuf's father, Yusuf himself, was killed during that Meitesine riot in Kano. So you can see Meitesine riot in Kano has given birth to a lot of other pockets of insurgents who went to Kaduna, Gombe, and Maiduguri. And they did various uprisings there, like Alak Ato and so on in Bulunkutu and other places. At the time Meitesine came, we still had that problem that we are having today. We have problem of intelligence gathering and lack of coordination between intelligence, the security, and the armed forces. So as long as there is no intelligence gathering machinery in place, we will continue to have this problem. Mind you, when Osama bin Laden was being chased by America, he was not killed by the soldiers or all the troops that America had sent to Afghanistan. It was through intelligence gathering. There was a doctor who was pursuing him, and that was how they were able to trace Osama bin Laden.
Okay, Nasser, let me pause you there. Let me pause you there, Nasser. Let me pause you there. Let's go, Majid. So,
yeah,
way forward.
I'm with you.
Insecurity has been a big problem in Nigeria, and it's still a big deal in Nigeria right now, and there can be development with insecurity.
I'll just take it from where Nasir stopped. We need, this is a kind of war that you can't win with brick and mortar. We need intelligence gathering. I mean, we are fighting a high technical, highly skilled set of insurgents. I mean, yeah, you see the way they have been attacking. I think they have made about 4 attempts now on the governor of Borno State, Zulum, to the extent that the Nigerian Governors Forum had to meet with him yesterday, and so they were suggesting whether we should invite Chadian troops to come and assist in quashing this insurgents. So going forward, I think we need more of intelligence gathering. Like Nasir said, I mean, it took the Americans snipers to get Osama bin Laden. And you say you don't find this, we don't win this kind of war in conventional ways. So we need, and we have said it severally on Journalist Hangout, that intelligence gathering and cooperation, information sharing amongst the various security organs in Nigeria are quite key for us to actually combat this.
Okay, let me pause you there, Majid. Coming back to the studio now, why has it been difficult for Mr. President to rejig the security architecture?
You know, before we came in here, I was showing this one to you, that look at it, Buhari names new NSA service chiefs. That on Monday, July 13th.
That's the Guardian.
2015, Guardian.
July.
July 13, but we published it on Tuesday, July 14.
14.
But the act itself was
July
13, 2015. I was still editor of The Guardian at that time when we published this thing. How many suggestions, how many times, even National Assembly people have weighed in, have suggested the issue threats.
Nothing.
But you can see how analysts have been saying that the president had the prerogative. He had the power. He's the commander-in-chief. He knew who to work with.
There was a press release to that effect from the presidency that the National Assembly was going beyond.
The people themselves have been suggesting that these people have stayed longer than necessary.
Okay.
We need fresh blood.
Jide, I need your intervention to this particular topic.
Well, the thing is, the president does not want to remove them. There's nothing we can do about it. We have suggested to him. What I see about President Buhari is that he doesn't appear to give any form of KPI to the people who work for
performance.
him. Yes, because if he gives KPI to a lot of his ministers, by now so many of them should have been dismissed. Because ministers who are doing absolutely nothing, who are not working, they are just kept there. And you are not you're asking yourself, on what basis is this person still there? There's no KPI. Even for those of them who are habitual failures, there is no PIP, no performance improvement program or plan. So there's nothing we can do. If he has said he does not want to remove them, if we split hairs, if we hit our heads against the wall till tomorrow, he will not remove them.
Nasiru, we voted for President Buhari. Why do you think he's still keeping the service chiefs?
Well, nobody knows. You know, President Buhari was a general in the Nigerian army. Before then, he was a GOC. He commanded troops. And he should know better, I think. But with the calls from all sectors of Nigeria, I think the president needs to listen. Our next door neighbor, Niger Republic, some few months ago lost scores of military men, and the president had no option than to change all the service chiefs, and nothing happened. Things are moving fine in Niger, and not only Niger, every other country. It is really a shame that the governor of Borno State, Governor Zulum, had to ask for Chadian troops to come and help Nigeria. Chad is a country of 16 million people. Their budget of defense, their total budget is 1,210,000,000 CFCA, which is equivalent to 838 million naira. Here we are with a defense budget of 1.9 billion, seeking help from a country like that. I think something has got to be done. The president should know that these people have reached the last bus stop. People are really tired. Traditional rulers have called on him, the National Assembly, people from the Northeast, and hordes of other people have called on the president to remove these service chiefs or change them and get a fresh, get fresh blood. Fresh blood will come with new ideas, new strategies, which may help. And people who come as new service chiefs would want to also do something and leave a legacy.
Thank you, Nasiru.
And that opportunity has not been given. So
thank you, Nasiru. Mojid, so ultimately, we hope that Mr. President would listen to Nigerians, and we hope that he won't have to carry this the service chief, because this 2015 they were sworn in 2015, appointed 2015. Maybe he has the mind of spending the whole 8 years with them.
You don't change a winning team, but this team is not winning. So I think there's a need for a rejig in the Premiership and other. I mean, it's like a football team. If you are not doing well, you look for either better players or a better manager. And as it were, I don't think we are getting the required results, especially given the fact that the president campaigned on 3 legs, one of which is security. So if we are not getting the security rights and the ball stops on is stable, and the service chiefs, I think they have overstayed their time. We need fresh ideas. We need fresh guys who should come in and do something.
Thank you, Mojit. We'll end the show on a celebration mood because despite the challenges facing our country, its 60th independence anniversary is worth celebrating. Yes. We have a cake for this, courtesy of UVO Creations, owned by Lady Vivian James, wife of our own assignment editor, Asuko James. Thank you, Lady Vivian James. Thank you. Thank you for this cake. And one very good thing about this cake, celebrating Nigeria at 60 and all the resource people. That I have Shola here, I have Asuko here, I have Mayor Akikpelu here, this is Sam Ibemere here, this is Mobolade Omonijoy here, and Cyril Abaku here, and then Wale. That Wale is here, and BC, that's Moji Jamio, MJ. GKB is also here, and BKO, help me.
Dotun is there, Ayo Zubaku is there. Martins, I can see
this
Martins.
Oloja. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 13 of our resource people.
We have every reason to thank God that we are alive.
Yes.
It's a privilege to be alive. Many of the people we started this year with, they are gone. And we are celebrating another Independence Day. In our time, by God's grace, Nigeria will be greater. You know? And we will hand over a better Nigeria to our children, you know, because our parents handed over a good Nigeria to us.
Wasn't this bad?
We cannot afford to leave a bad Nigeria to our children, otherwise they will not forgive us. That's why the current crop of leaders must do their best to improve things in our country, reduce the number of the poverty-stricken. We have become the poverty capital of the world. We have overtaken India. We need to change all that narrative. By the time we are celebrating 61st birthday, we should be able to see evidence that we have improved as a country. So, Mrs. Asuko James, thank you for this cake. We are going to deal with the cake once we come down in the spirit of celebration. Yes.
And also, Olayinka Oyegbile, today is your birthday. Woo! Olayinka Oyegbile.
The man with the Panama. The Panama man.
Happy birthday to Egbo Olayinka Oyegbile. Today is your birthday. You share the same birthday with Nigeria.
Happy birthday to Nigeria.
Happy birthday to Nigeria. Yes, we are proud of Nigeria. It's not. There's no other.
We love our country.
Definitely, it's our country.
East, west, north, south.
That's why we didn't leave this country.
Yeah,
a lot of our mates,
of
our mates are in Canada.
I will not go anywhere, and then I will just take advantage of that to talk to young people who are aspiring. That they should not be hopeless, and they should also plan well. Instead of agonizing in the social media, they should be organizing.
Yes.
Organizing to take over.
They should be creative.
People. Yeah, we should be creative. We should not just be agonizing in the social media. They should create a movement to take over.
We have to go. Yeah. Mayor Akikpelu is still in the studio. We celebrate his 60th birthday with this cake too while celebrating Nigeria.
Let's toast to the greatness of our country.
Of our country, yes. It's our country. It's the only country we can call our own.
Let's toast to the greatness of our country.
Wow.
By the time we celebrate the 61st anniversary, more greatness will have been recorded for our country.
Amen.
Amen.
So shall it be.
Amen.
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 Amen. And my brother Nasiru Zaradin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mojit Jamil.
I greet you.
Zaradin.
Tonight at 9. Tonight at 9. Thank you so much.
Yes, at the High Commission, we met.
And that's our offering today. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for our regular episode of Journalist Hangout. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzubakum. God bless Nigeria. Bye for now.